not necessarily saying, oh, well, I'm very much better. I'm looking to, you know, I'm here prospecting for this and that. That's not the point at all. It's more a question of as you guys go about doing your work for whomever you're going to do it for, what are some key takeaways from the perspective of a person who's reviewing them as to, you know, what should you do and what shouldn't you do? So maybe, I don't know, who wants to
Well,
start?
I'm just going to throw this one sort of caveat or distinguishing factor into this discussion, and that is that CSP Management is a very small firm, and what Ursula is doing is handling a much larger, first of all, number of requests. You know, I see requests routinely, but not daily. Ursula probably deals with that, you know, I venture to say on a daily basis. And so you're going to, so the metric is somewhat different. The evaluation process, I'm sure, is different from how something goes through CSP Management as it does through the trust company. So you're going to hear two very, very different, you know, one small business person and one, you know, much larger major business. And everyone knows that the trust company's name is on so many wonderful things in this town. You know, I'm sure Ursula will talk about how that sort of gets parsed out. So with that in mind, I will just say that when I am asked, and I have the other distinction of not only do I get asked in my business, but because I'm an event planner myself, I'm asking people too. I do this, I end up on both sides of this equation, and so I bring that perspective to it as well, having sharing your need to know how to do this is, you know, is something that, you know, I sort of over years I've planned an event called Taste of the Nation, which has taken place for 25 years here in town, which is a fundraiser, raises money for childhood hunger and organizations involved in mitigating that. And another big event that I plan is the AIDS Ride for Life, which is a 16-year event that is a bike ride, a fully supported bike ride around Cayuga Lake that raises money for the Southern Tier AIDS Program. So two long-term events that have had a you know, solid growth history and very stable. So that's where I come from. You know, throw your bio into this.
So I've been in banking for 35 years. Actually started, I've worked in every job in the front end of the house. And what you would think of in banking in terms of going into a branch. Had an opportunity to get into sales and marketing, and it's actually been very interesting. The part of the job that I probably like the best is the interactions that I've had with people who are in the community. I've gotten to know some wonderful people, kitchen, theater, and on and on and on. I never would have had that opportunity. My job really consists of managing the process for Tompkins Trust Company, and those that approach us for donations, be they marketing related or contributions, or to tap into a foundation that we have. People will come to me and will ask me questions, how best to go about it. So hopefully I can give a little bit of clarity from our company, which is probably very, very, not very different, but different.
Well, it is, but you tap into a very important thing that everybody should kind of realize. When you're approaching a potential sponsor, someone like the trust company has probably at least two different mechanisms. I have one. It's marketing or it's my charitable. You know, I'm kind of, you know, it's something that I believe in and I want to support it, or if there's a marketing aspect to it that works for me. Something like the trust company has, you know, you can go to somebody big like that. They have marketing dollars that might apply, and they have foundation, which is, you know, money that is meant, you know, purely for charitable. And so you have to kind of do a little bit of homework to find out what the you know, what the options are within an organization's structure, and also, especially in the case, you know, in my case, it's helpful to know what the business's affinities are, what they tend to support. Anybody that would come and look at CSP management support would probably draw the conclusion that and rightfully so, or should, is that I support things that are hunger and food related, youth-related, and arts-related. Those are those are three big areas in which those are affinities for me, and probably almost anything, you know, with a real emphasis on things that are very community-centric. You know, I have you know, I'm very big about, my belief is very strong in that if you do business in a community and expect people to give you their hard-earned money, that you have a duty to give back and support the community. So that drives, and so when I talk about philosophies, it's understanding a business's philosophy that will help you tailor any ask you make for an event sponsorship.
And we kind of do the same thing, but it is just probably a much bigger scale.
Right.
So a couple of things that and these are on your sheets, I try to break it down. We'll go with the middle piece first.
I wouldn't be bad with my glasses.
Oh, okay.
I think my arm's falling over.
Just general information that you should be able to speak to when you're actually meeting with someone is you want to have a very clear description of what this event is. You need to think about the number of potential attendees and where are those attendees being drawn from. So I will get a request from a group for a sponsorship, and they're in, it's something that's going to happen in the Adirondacks. That is not our sphere of influence. So if there's no compelling reason for us to actually sponsor something like that, depending on what it is, it becomes much more relevant to us if it's something that's local. Or for a company our size, we also, we're in Western New York, Central New York, the Southern Tier. If there's overlap, that's actually going to make it a little bit more interesting as well. We do something with ag, that ag is throughout New York State. That's a very different ask than something that's going to just affect somebody here in Tompkins County.
Demographic, that's
Yes,
the word,
absolutely.
you know your age group, know
And
your
the age, too.
income, you know that, when, you know, Ursula was talking about attendee, it's, a lot of people like to know who they're gonna be in front of.
Right. And this is for marketing donation dollars. And that's a little bit different than when we're talking about a contribution to an organization. What other sponsors do you have? That's going to be a question that if you came to me, I'm going to ask that question. Who else have you reached out to? It's important. It can't just be one, necessarily be one entity that's actually going to sponsor this. That has to bear the whole shoulder of what you're trying to accomplish.
I have a question for that. Are you wanting specifically information about committed sponsors, or people, or are you okay with, we are approaching these are the people that we're approaching?
I think just a discussion in general, who you've approached and who you might actually have,
And to that point, some sponsors may be concerned about exclusivity.
which is the next thing.
I'm sorry, if I had my glasses, I'd know that. Maybe I should get my glasses.
No, go ahead, because it is.
Yeah, okay, right, yeah, I'm sorry,
That's right.
but I didn't
So
look.
if you're
Can you tell we didn't rehearse this or what?
if you're reaching out to a whole lot of different banks or financial institutions, you can see, again, it does water down what our effect is on this, and that would be potentially an issue. And I would just be asking more questions. So how is that going to play out in the whole thing? I mean, we realize that we can't sponsor everything. We just don't have the money to do that. And other people do need to step up to the plate. But it's going to be pretty awkward if you're doing Tompkins Financial and then you get, I don't know, Smith Barney, that's just popping in my head. We're a competitor. So that becomes a bit of an issue, and you just need to kind of think that through and how that's going to play out and be able to talk about that.
So who you collaborate with makes a difference at times?
It could. Mm-hmm.
But it's better to come in with collaboration to
But industry exclusivity is something that you need to have, you need to understand the sensitivity of that
yeah.
just in your planning process.
It may or may not come into play.
Right.
Someone, you know, especially, you know, from a charitable contribution standpoint, as Ursula said, this is more about marketing dollars. So the marketing people will ask that question and concern themselves. probably less so, I mean, much more so than the foundation or charitable donor will.
You know, oftentimes people at sort of our level, at the level of the event planning side, aren't thinking about those things. It's just not,
Right.
it's just not where we're headed. But it is really crucial. I like the idea, I like the term industry exclusivity, because it could be banking, where you say, well, no, you can't, putting two banks together is not going to be beneficial to either one of them. But it could also be restaurants, it could be management companies, it could be, I mean, you know, whatever. I mean, but one has to think about that, and oftentimes we don't, because, you know, our sense was, well, we're looking for money wherever we can get it. So why, you know, what's the big deal? Well, the thing you have to know is there is a big deal, and it's something that you have to, it may or may not be a big deal, but you have to keep that in mind. Yes?
I was going to say that the big deal really is, from a marketing perspective, that what sponsors get in return for their dollars is the marketing, the public exposure of being involved in an important event, and that is watered down if one of their competitors is also on the poster.
Exactly.
Exactly right.
Okay, Ursula, go ahead.
Sure. If you have a list of operating expenses, that is helpful. I don't always get that, oftentimes I don't, but we're always impressed when we see it, because again, it means that you've thought this through, and we can see where all of these dollars are going. I had somebody that came and asked for money, and basically it was for that individual's salary. That's a little off-putting when you're doing this. We're not here to make somebody, you know, have a living necessarily with these dollars. That might be appropriate someplace else. So having a list of some operating expenses of what you know, that would be very, very helpful. One of the things, if this is a larger organization, you have a board, let people know who's on your board, because that actually has some weight. If these are people that are in the community, Jerry Dietz, who might be doing business with us, who is also on this board, that would be helpful to know. We actually might do it because Jerry's on this board, and we want to support Jerry in this.
And that's a very good point that, you know, you should know. When you ask, if you know somebody within that organization, if somebody on your group knows somebody, the connection is going to go much. You know, I don't care, you could have the best development person going, but if somebody on the committee or the group organizing it knows somebody at the bank or knows me and comes, that's a much easier ask and a much more likely, has a higher, I don't want to say a higher success rate.
It's warmer.
But it's a lot easier to go for the asking group.
The difference between a cold call and a warm call.
Yep.
It's a warm call.
I work at Cooperative Extension, and how important is it for us in different groups, different departments to coordinate in our ask, or is it okay that you understand that we are?
It is extremely important, because there is a fixed dollar amount, and so when you have an organization that's like that, and you've got lots of different arms to it, you all should really sit down and go, what is most important to us? And let us come with a plan and say, you know what, we were thinking we'd come with this, this, and this. However, this is where we really need the money. You really only get one ask, because it's limited dollars. And for us as an organization, being a community bank, we do business with a lot of different people, and so we have to keep our options open and also be able to, you know, talk to you when you come in. So if it all goes to cooperative extension, it becomes a problem for us. So really having that dialogue with us and say, you know, we want to partner with you. There are so many different things. What might work best for our partnership? And then let us choose which one of those might work better is probably the better way to go.
You know what? We are talking, right now, this entire conversation to this point has been about presumption that you're asking for dollars. But there is, you know, what's called in-kind, donations that can be made of services and or product that have value, that can be converted into cash in some other way, that are equally tangible and valuable, you know, used properly. So as you think about, you know, asking them for potential sponsorship, it's not just about dollars. That entire Taste of the Nation event I tell you about is the restaurant, it wouldn't happen if the restaurants and wineries didn't step up, and this is going to resonate with Liz, who runs her own events. If they didn't step up and donate all that food and wine. They donate all of that food and wine, and that's an in-kind donation worth tens of thousands of dollars. And we value it. And so don't just get locked in on dollars. Dollars absolutely are important to pay for certain things, but there's other ways to create a sponsorship. And talking with potential, businesses and about different ways. It could be a combination of cash and in-kind kinds of things that happen. So there's a lot of ways to make that happen.
If you have a business relationship with the organization that you're coming to and asking money for, it's good to know that up front. So at the bank, if you have accounts with us and you do a lot of business with us, that is going to make a decision, play a part in that decision whether we're going to do this or not, in a favorable way, if you're like putting yes and no. So make sure that you know what that is, and you can actually speak to it when you come. When you come and you have a packet, have multiple levels of participation. We'll have people come in and they'll say, we're looking for a $5,000 sponsorship, that's the only thing that there is. That's going to be a yes or no. We either have $5,000 or we don't have $5,000. Now, $5,000 might be one level, but you might have a $500 level and a $1,000 level. That at least gives the organization, the potential sponsor, of picking something as opposed to all or nothing. That really helps. Think about possible co-sponsors. And it kind of goes back to industry exclusivity. If there are tangible partnerships that would make sense, think about that before you come. And ask the question, would that be something that might be of interest to you? We do that, for example, at the State Theater. We co-sponsor the family series with the hospital. It's a very comfortable co-sponsorship with them. They deliver babies, and we want new families to bank with us. It works beautifully. Let's see, what else do I have? The last bullet that I have, besides traditional media, what else can you provide to the showcase sponsor, is really important. We're all working and we're doing what we need to do 8 hours plus a day. We don't want to have to come up with the ideas for you. You need to come and tell us what those ideas are. I can't tell you how many times people will say, well, whatever you want to do. Well, I don't necessarily need to take on figuring that out for you. You need to come and tell me what that is and what that looks like. We can maybe brainstorm, but really it is incumbent upon you to do that.
Just mention something here that we do at the Archaeological Research Institute that we have corporate sponsor day where we allow our corporate sponsors free admission and
Yeah, great. And when actually Gary mentioned before of building a corporate sponsor benefits package, and Ursula just touched on that. You step that up. So you have a $500 level, and that gets you, a mention on a poster, and you keep building onto those benefits. Then you present that to a potential sponsor. It wouldn't be the first time somebody's wanted to mix and match some of that. And seeing all of the combination, or maybe they have some other idea. But to Ursula's point, let them. If they want to come to you, but you should present the picture that you have very concisely, and this is what we offer. And then from there, I've negotiated many packages off of that benefit package because somebody wanted a different experience for. It depends really what the event is and what you have to offer, but you can create different experiences. To that idea of having sponsors come into the museum, there's this idea of we create meals for corporate sponsors. We may say to a corporate sponsor, if you participate at this level, we'll get a couple of chefs come in and do a lunch or a dinner for a select number of employees or however. There's lots of different ways to create synergy in sponsorship.
Absolutely. Just a couple other things, we jump up to the top, things that you might, that you should know or be able to provide to a potential sponsor. You probably want to know who's actually making the decision, whether this is going to fly or not. When do you need to let them know, by when do you have to have a decision? Sometimes I'll get something, I have no idea. If it's a corporate contribution, we only meet so many times. Like, I need to know that ahead of time so that I can get it into a queue, or we do it outside of the normal, whenever we're going to have that discussion. A really important one, number 3, economy of scale. And what that means is you really kind of need to know from the organization. I'll have people come in and they'll say, we need a $10,000 sponsorship for an event. $10,000 is a lot of money, even for a bank that does really very, very well. So having the discussion, you know, where, I don't know how you look at these things, and I don't know what kind of dollars you throw at that. Opening that discussion up in front of that individual is really very helpful for you. And it's helpful for us. So what I tell people is, here at the trust company, we consider a donation of $2,500 or above a very significant donation, okay? So when you come in at $10,000, and if that's the only thing that you come in at, chances are that's not gonna happen. Unless it's maybe a capital campaign or something like that. It's just out of the realm of possibilities, because it's a finite amount of dollars, and we have lots of customers and a lot of good things that are going on, and we have to figure that out.
You know, you talk about timing, and it's somewhat different, although I'm sure the foundation has, you know, has cycles as well. But with marketing dollars, really when you ask, it has a lot to do with what's budgeted and what they have left in the budget. Keep that in mind, that if you're hitting somebody late in the year, or even $500, I mean, they may be looking, you know, great idea, would love to do it, but I spend all my money already. So timing, finding out when they determine budgets and getting out in front of that is a really helpful thing.
So, speaking of which, what are your 2 budget cycles?
Ours is a calendar year.
Yeah, and so is mine.
Okay.
And so we were actually out of money this year because of some very odd things that had come up. We were out of money probably by mid-September.
For the following calendar year?
For
The
that,
current, yeah,
that
the
calendar year.
So do you appreciate, because right now I'm trying to figure out, I'm building a corporate sponsorship program, and do you appreciate being approached for the following calendar year, say in October, November, or are you okay with being approached at any point in the calendar year, if
I
you
would
choose?
I would do it at the end of the year,
At the end
only
of the
because there's so many things that are happening.
I mean, I wouldn't throw anybody out the door if they came in June and said, listen, I'm thinking about this for, you know, whatever, but it's, the fourth quarter is when I really
Approach
tend
for
to,
the following
yeah, for the
calendar year.
following.
And I would let you know that, you know, we can have this discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know what the budget's going to look like, and we will the clock gets reset on the 1st of January.
That's when we look at, okay, what did we spend this past year? What do we commit to? What do we, you know, where are we, and what does it look like we can do going forward? So that's when we evaluate going into the fourth quarter.
When you're measuring, or how do you measure the return on investment for a marketing donation? Do you have specific metrics that you look